Perfect. Thanks, man. Next up, we have TradeIX. TradeIX will be pitching to solve the problem statement digitization of trade and processes. Please welcome people representing TradeIX, Tawfique Hamid, the Chief Revenue Officer, and Daniela Gonzalez, their Head of Sales for APEC and Middle East.
Thank you. Hi, how are you? Enjoying the Fintech Fest?
Yeah, it has a very good buzz.
Who are you with?
I'm with Marco Polo.
Interesting. I've heard you guys are digitizing trade finance?
We are. If you look at trade finance banks today, they have a very difficult time aligning documentation with their customers. It's very, very paper-based today. It's sometimes electronic, but at best, it's manual at the back end.
So are you guys creating a network platform?
We are, but not in the traditional sense of those words. If you look at digitizing trade finance and really getting value out of it, there are three distinct items that have to be addressed. Number one, the data is extremely sensitive. Number two, you're working with lots and lots of stakeholders, so you have to be able to have your systems interoperate. And then, as your trade expands, you have to repeat that cycle repeatedly. So you have to figure out a way for you to connect once to connect to many. If you like jargon, that's COCM.
I'm getting it. So I guess that's why DLT matters in this blockchain space.
That is why DLT matters. If you look at on-premise systems, traditionally, they give you total control of your data, but they make it very difficult to integrate with outside systems. On the other hand, marketplaces have been developed where by default you're working with lots of participants, but what you do is you give up control of your underlying data to an intermediate third party, which in today's world is quite untenable. If you look at a robust DLT platform, we use, for example, R3's Corda, which was developed for banks. This enables us to give every participant total control of their data, their applications, and their platform, and then they can provision that on a case-by-case basis to their trading partners.
What else Marco Polo does differently?
There are a number of things. Number one, we are totally reimagining the way trade finance products are developed and even executed. We're not trying to digitize receivables, payables, guarantees, and letters of credit. We're trying to create a menu of functions that allow you to completely create innovative products. A really good example is Daimler did a transaction recently with their supplier Dur. It was publicized by their bank LBBW 2 weeks ago. Instead of using a letter of credit to secure payment obligation, they used a digital shortcut called payment commitment based on our platform. We also don't believe in the concept of a network or the network. We believe in collaborating to establish business and technical standards that allow networks to work with each other. And finally, we're opening up a developer toolkit that will allow other providers to build functionality on top of our stack or to provide services that can be available to all the participants.
Oh, but I heard you mention major corporates. So can you tell us a bit more what kind of results Marco Polo is getting?
Results so far so good. We started with 10 banks back in 2017. We're up to 27 right now. We're on target to hit 50 by the end of the year. Our deployment times have been shrinking. Projects can be as little as 3 months. We have a global trial running right now with over 60 major banks and major corporates from around the world.
Sorry, did you say trial? I thought you guys were live.
We get that question all the time. I say trial because the platform has had to be reinvented several times because the technology is so cutting edge. But we've been live for over a year with real transaction with our customers. We released our newest distributed platform October 8th, and that's what the trial is running on. And we have Jan, Feb, and March of this coming year, new functionality and ERP integration toolkits.
Great. And I know you guys are global. How important is this region?
This region's super important. Our very first customer is AGTV, the digital bank from this region. And when we talk to other regions, every region is interested in trade flows with this region. We're in discussions with at least 6 other banks who are in the trial. NBF is also part of the network. So we're expanding here as we speak.
Who's behind Marco Polo?
Well, our founder is the founder of Prime Revenue, which was revolutionary at the time. Our chief strategy officer, Dave Sutter, is 28 years old and on his second blockchain trade finance startup. And our CFO has worked with the founder of Salesforce.com. So it's a strong team.
Amazing team. How about growth strategy?
Growth is very aggressive. We expect to be a $100 million business in the next 3 years, and this has been validated by outside consulting firms.
Well, thank you very much.
Perfect timing. Over to the judges for Q&A.
I'll take the first question.
Sure.
In your strategy, if you were to deal with a bank that has legacy structures and infrastructure, how do you help them integrate into your platform?
So there's a couple of different ways. Banks are using us in two different ways. Number one is some banks are going through a major transformation, like BNPP is one of our founding banks, and they have a major program. In that case, they're looking to replace their complete middle and front office with the trade finance solutions from us. Other banks are using us more as a conduit, where we are integrating through these ERP integration and bank toolkits to their existing trade finance solutions. So some are interested in the network, and some are interested in the network plus the functional aspects. Does that answer your question clearly?
I have one question. How are you planning to extend your product to the custom authorities around the world?
To the, I'm sorry?
Custom authorities.
The custom authorities. We are not touching customs right now. We're a small company. We're 150 people. And we found it's best to really focus in on where we're best, which is the trade finance aspect. We do have additional. Today, it's the banks and corporates, and so the funder and the corporate. The next phase is we add trade credit insurers. We're working with the top 7 trade credit insurers around the world. And then the next thing is logistics providers. So customs will come in, but it's something we've discussed and we do not plan to address it right now. Most likely it'll be through integration with another network.
Thank you.
Since you are 1 year live, so what mistake you did and what you learned from them?
Well, the mistake, I think the technology is so new that we've had to reinvent several times. Like I said, we used DLT as a central database initially, and then we went to a distributed architecture. That was the biggest thing that was a learning for us.
Thank you, Tawfique. Thank you. Thanks a lot. A huge round of applause, please. Thank you. Next up, we've got Gibran.